What's going on YouTube? Pistol Pete here. Today we're going to be talking about knives that failed during testing. Now, none of them that I have had catastrophic fails. They're all just something as far as either a chip in the blade, a wave, a roll, handles coming loose, guards coming loose. These are the fails I'm talking about, right? So I mean, if you're to take it out in the wilderness and depend on it, these are the ones that I would not recommend to depend on. I mean, obviously you can MacGyver anything, right, and make it work if you had to in there, but we're talking about something that you don't have to worry about doing that to. You could just go out there and just smash with it and know it's going to hold up. So these are the ones that we'll go over the issues that I've had with these and the way I fixed them on a lot of them. Maybe give you ideas on fixing yours if yours ever falls apart. But some of the stuff you can't fix, you know. So, but we'll start here with the first one. The first one we'll start with here is the Black Ronin. Black Ronin will be the first one here. This one here did take some, during testing, took some waves in the blade here. You could, when I run my fingers here, I could feel, it's hard to see in the camera, but you can kind of pick it up a little bit. See right there? Yeah, you can kind of see how it's waving here. So I guess during batoning and stuff like that, it did smash the thin steel here and make it wave. The tip did bend slightly during stab tests. I mean, again, when I always say this, I preach on this, but the thin on these budget blades, a lot of these budget blades, the tip is just too thin. So of course it has a slight bent in the tip. The handle during testing came loose. It actually even broke. You guys can pick that up. Yeah, right there, it cracked while I was testing. So I had to retighten these. I actually took it off, put glue there. I put glue there, put glue underneath, and then wrapped it in the Wilson tennis tape. So it does feel good now in the hand. I do like the way it feels now in the hand. But yeah, so I mean, this is for light task. Again, it's classified as a machete anyways, so you don't want to do a bushcraft with this. But I just want to see, because sometimes they classify these as machetes. Like I think even the which one is it? The Condor Undertaker is classified as a machete. You know, and that thing, you've seen people see that. I mean, it can chop through logs and batons and everything. So you want to make sure to test it and see if not. But I even had machetes hold up a lot better than this. But this is one here that, you know, failed on me quite bad, you know, during testing. Again, and nothing catastrophic, but definitely has some fail points. Let's move on. The next one, mind you, this is one of my favorite buoys. This one here I'm going to show you. This here is actually was my number one buoy up until the one I just did last, which is, man, bitch and blade. I love it, which is the Black Mule buoy by Rough Rider. But the one I'm going to show you now, we talked about before, and this one here is modified already now, but is the Cisco Bowie. Now, I love this. The steel on this is awesome. This is the high carbon steel. They don't classify what grade, but it's just high carbon steel. And man, this thing holds, the steel itself holds up great. Now, why is this in my failures? Is because the handle material, the pins, the glue they use, the guard, all came loose and fell. I mean, after first use, the handles already cracked loose, and the guard started rattling and bending, you know, and stuff like that. Even just swinging it around. So a lot of that stuff fell off on the first try. Now, again, all this stuff can be modified and fixed, and you know, as you saw, like Donnie B fixed his, made it look pretty bitchin'. I've seen other content creators, the same thing. They shave down the handles, they'll change the guards. Me, obviously, you saw what I did. I made mine a thrower. I blued this, covered up all the scratches and scrapes and blued it. And it came out pretty good. And now this is just a dedicated thrower. So I did buy another one, but that I'm probably gonna modify myself for just like bushcraft use. But this one's strictly just a thrower now. Put a tennis tape just to have a little bit of grip while throwing it around. And so yeah, so that's why this one I put in there as far as a failure, because it did fail. You know, I can't lie about that. It did fail as far as the components on the handle and everything. All right, let's move on here. Next one would be the Ridge Runner. I think this one is the Renegade buoy. So this one here also failed as far as the steel held up really well, surprisingly, really well. And I use this as a thrower and beat the hell out of this knife. So it holds up really well, the steel. This is almost the same as the Cisco. As the material, the steel is not bad, and it is full tang. They believe it's Fit for Knives. John from Fit for Knives, I believe that's what his channel is. You can check him out. He's a cool dude. His came up loose too on the after testing it, and he took it apart to make sure. See, and it is a full tang construction. Me, I didn't get to that point yet. My handles did come loose, but all I did was throw some epoxy in between the cracks. I just kind of pushed it between the cracks and squeezed it back together, and then wrapped it in Wilson tennis tape. But you could tell there too. I also put epoxy around the guard, so now, because the first thing too, the guard came loose, the handles came loose. So again, this is another one where the steel didn't fail me. You know, there's no rolls, no chips, no folds in the steel. The tip's pretty thick, so it stayed pretty straight. Just strictly the handles and the guard came loose, and the handles started coming loose. So again, a little bit of a failure there with that. So they maybe they need to take a little more time with the handle. And like a lot of content creators say, and like even Scab from Choir Boys Cutlery, go check him out. Even he was saying how, like, the handle is one of the main parts of a knife. I mean, if your handle is not comfortable, if it's going to slip out of your hand, or the handle's going to break, or pinch your skin when you're trying to swing because the scales are loose and the meat of your palm is going in between these and pinching, and that's not good, right? So handle is very, very important part of a knife. So you want to make sure that you got a good handle on these knives. All right, next one, you all know, because this is the one that had a pretty big failure, was the Masters USA sawback Bowie. Let me back up a little bit. Yeah, this one here failed pretty bad. I mean, it got a pretty damn. Of course, the guard came loose on the first try. The scales came loose. I had to retighten these star key here, and of course these are freaking soft brass. So I mean, as soon as you give a slight twist of these, they start to mush and they start to strip out. And I was able to fix it a little bit. It had a really, really bad, you can see right there in the light, really bad wave. I mean, this thing waved big time, and even little tiny chips in there too when I was batoning. So super thin, super soft metal. They call it stainless steel. They don't say what grade of stainless. It just says stainless steel, Pi 420 and bad heat treat. The tip slightly bent from just throwing it into the log, again from probably some being too soft of metal. The tip bent on throwing it into the log and throwing it at the log and into the log. So yeah, this one here, again, another one you use for just light work, light duty, chopping vines and stuff that's soft, because this will definitely damage. And again, like I said before in my last video, this will make a decent defense knife, because this thing did come absolutely razor sharp. So I mean, through flesh and skin, it would definitely, and super, super great piercing because it's super thin tip. But for bushcraft or anything more than that, it's gonna fail. So I ended up the same thing here. I ended up gluing the guard back on, gluing the handles back on, and I mean everything's on tight now. Nothing's coming loose now. But again, had failures. Soft metal. So let's move on here. Next one, another bitchin' knife by Cisco. I love it. And this one, almost nothing. This one's a minor fail, super minor fail, I'd have to give it. Still one of my favorites. Still for 16 bucks. And a lot of these ones I'm showing now are the lower end, right? These are all between $35 to $15, $16. This one here was like a $16 to $18 Bowie. And almost not, the steel on this was actually surprising, because it says high carbon 420. So it's a high carbon steel. I don't know how they do that. High carbon stainless steel, doesn't make sense, but that's what they label it as. But I don't care as long as it holds up. This has no folds, no rolls, no nothing. I mean, it held up really, really well. Only part that slightly failed, and on a lot of these budget blades, is a super thin tip. Maybe pick it up. It has a slight bend at the very, very tip. You can see a slight bend in the tip just because it's so freaking thin of steel there. So again, you're not going to pry with this. You're not going to be throwing this too much, because you will bend the tip or break the tip, break it off. Another part that failed was the guard came loose. This guard came loose here, and I put super glue. Again, I put that epoxy. Keep saying super glue, with epoxy, the Gorilla epoxy in there to keep it tight. Now it's on there tight. It's not going anywhere. This rubber handle feels pretty damn comfortable, and it held up really well. Nothing came loose there. Just the guard came loose, so that's why I glued the guard. So that's, again, minor failure, minor failure. This one would still do pretty good out in the wilderness, but that's why, I mean, you wouldn't want to depend on this too much, because I mean, even little failures, would suck, right? You have to try to adapt to them. All right, let's get with more of the a little bit more expensive knives that I had issues with. We'll do this one here. This is like over $100 knife. This is the Gill Hibben Rambo 3 knife. And this one here, I believe, is another call-out stainless steel. I don't know if it's a 420 or 440. I forget what it is. But it's definitely, they classify these as wall hangers. And You can use these again for light tasks, but this isn't something you're going to want to baton with because it does have a stick tang in there, or it might even be that cord type thing. When testing this, it was minor, okay, but it was a minor, but it did have a slight. It's going to be hard to pick up on camera. If I go like this with my finger, I feel like a slight bow in the middle. Again, this waved. No chipping, no rolling. I mean, it did roll. No chipping or no other damage to the edge, except for there's a slight wave with batoning. And again, with these softer metals, thin, it does go pretty thin to the edge there. So I think that's what caused that wave. So again, you could use it. Any knife is usable, obviously, but this is not something you're going to want to be doing heavy bushcraft with because of that stick tang in here and because of the thinness and softness of this metal here. I like the knife. It's a beautiful looking knife, you know. Of course, Rambo, right? Every knife guy loves fucking the Rambo knives. They're bitching, but I mean, I'm sure you can get like the KHI, the one that D-Bad created. That one's going to be a solid one. Or there's other ones you could buy. I think Pull Force, and that'll be a little probably more reliable. You can make reliable versions of these. But this one here by Gill Hibben's, I would say it's not that reliable. And then after I was done beating on this, just one testing, when I first tested this on my video, you can go back and check out that video. This came loose. I mean, I tightened it back up, but you could twist it here. It was twisting up and down. It actually broke out. You can see there, pick it up there. It broke out some of this black gasket ring, plastic ring here. Right there, it's missing from in there because it broke when I was testing it. This all came loose. This came loose up here, so I had to reline everything up and put a little glue and then retighten the bolt at the bottom. So, I mean, and I can see if you use it more than just a day of testing, if you're trying to pin on this out in the wild, it probably would fail on you. It'd probably break from either the stick tang or somewhere it would break, or wave on you real bad. And you know, the tip again, super thin tip with that cheaper metal. I mean, this one didn't when I was testing this one didn't, it didn't break or it didn't bend on me. It's still pretty damn straight, but I could see being such a thin tip, if you beat on it a lot, it would bend or break on you. And then the last one we'll talk about here was the Mega Preacher. This one here. Now, this one's made by KHI. I love the knife. Freaking look at how thick that is. And this one again, minor failure, but this one here, and this one could have been, like I said in the video before, it could have been a little bit of me because I did ask him to make it razor sharp, and the thinner you make it behind the edge, the more vulnerable it'll be for rolling and bending on the edge. So with this big thick steel on that slender edge, it caused the roll. I don't know if I pick it up there, but you can kind of see it there where it rolled right there. I try to straighten this out. When I get a roll, the way I do it is I put it in a vise. Of course, I tape up the blade. I tape up the vise ends, put it in the vise, pinch it tight as you can. I'll get a rubber mallet, smack the little metal rod to keep cranking it down more and more and more. And a lot of times I can almost make it to where you can't even feel it or see it by just doing that, putting the vise and smacking the edge flat again. And then of course resharpening it, taking it back, resharpening it. And a few knives, I mean, you can't, unless I showed it to you, you wouldn't tell. You couldn't tell where that damage is. This one I tried, I kind of got it out, and that's why it looks better than it was. It was way worse than what it is now, but it was a pretty big wave in there. These are, and again, that's why I got to give, I'm not saying these are bad knives, because I have other KHI knives that I bang with and hit stuff with and have never had any issues with the edge. This one I did ask for, and okay, I do have other knives that are razor sharp that obviously don't wave, that are maybe different, but you got to think these are hand forged. And when you have hand forged and people are doing it by hand, there's gonna be some times where they didn't smash it out or heat treat it right at the end like that, because these are, I mean, when you're getting handmade stuff, that could happen. It's not machine pressed; these are handmade. So there is room for error, and not every knife's going to do that. Not every knife you get made from them is going to happen with, but it did happen with this one. There is damaged wave in that. And then another thing, because I think it's just so big and so heavy and so thick. Let's see if you can hear it. Yeah, you can't really hear it now, but the handles are coming loose. They are coming loose. There's a little bit of looseness here, so I'm gonna have to eventually maybe pop these pins out and throw more Gorilla Epoxy all in this and smash it back together and put it back together. So the handles are loose. I mean, if I squeeze on it, you can kind of hear a little bit of cracking, or crunching. So I'm just gonna have to take those off eventually and fix that. So there did come a little bit loose, but I mean, again, minor failure, right? I mean, this isn't, again, none of these are catastrophic, like, oh man, the knife broke in half, or like I've seen two of the ones that Fit for Knives reviewed on that guy's channel. His broken literally in half while he was hammering stuff, and I put this through the ringer, mind you. Okay, no, this wasn't light use. I mean, I was smashing with this thing. Like I said, don't think this is a bad knife, or they don't make good knives. They make great knives, but this knife in particular, I mean, and I was smashing on. I mean, because look at that, super thick. It's like I think it's like 10 millimeters thick or something crazy, you know. So I was old hard logs and just you know, smashing this through with doing batoning with it, just going crazy with this thing, testing out the edge, and that's why I got that wave. So it wasn't like light use that I was doing. This was pretty heavy use that I was doing, and smashing, trying to break through big logs with this thing, because obviously it can, right? Because look how freaking long that is. So I was smashing this against pretty hard old, I mean, probably 6-inch round logs. I mean, you know, pretty good stuff. And that's when I got that wave. But yeah, again, people say, yeah, I have other knives that I've done the same thing with the same size log, and they never fail. And I have other knives that I have here that I've tested and haven't failed like that. But you're dealing with hand forged, so you can't blame, you know, they can't make every single knife absolutely perfect every single time. So, you know, there's room for error there, and I understand that. So I'm not bashing the company, I'm not bashing them. All these knives here, I'm not bashing them. You're thinking about, you know, some of the ones that are, you know, $20 or less. You're talking, or you know, within the $20 range. You get what you pay for. You gotta assume that, right? And a lot of these ones are fixable, right? I mean, they're not 100% just junk knives because it happened. A lot of them, like I said, I could, if it was a small wave, I could take the wave out by pinching it together. Handles, you can glue them back together. The guards, you can glue them on. You can always customize them yourself. Put your own handles, own guards, however you want to do it. You could wrap them like I did in tennis wrap, or some sort of a leather wrap if you want. There's a lot of things you can do with fixing these things and making them back to functional knives, you know. And then again, a lot of the budget ones, if they break or bend, you just get another one. I mean, it's a lot of them are, and like I said, a lot of these didn't fail bad, you know. The one I would say, only one I would say I don't trust out of all these to use again for like anything other than light use would be that master. This one here is the only one I wouldn't
also
use
the Ronin machete.
Any type of feather. But all the rest, I would definitely bust through logs again and baton with again and stuff like that. Just because of the handles fail, or just because of a slight, you know, bend in the tip or something. To me, it's no biggie. And again, for the price. One more last one here. I'll show you this one. Same thing. Because I took off the coating here. I'm still trying to work on getting a better finish on it. The coating was on there freaking tight. I mean, it was on there really well. It was all, you know, you can tell it's on the edge part. I'm trying to get that off, but using different grit sandpaper and stuff. But even on this one here, this is the GI Tanto by Cold Steel. This one, the edge, super thin edge again with some of these, even Cold Steel. And the tip slightly bent. I don't know if it's picking that up, but the tip on that slightly bent. So even this one, the tip bent a little bit, but bitchin' freaking knife. And this knife, I would still definitely use for everything, even for throwing. Even though the tip bent slightly, little tiny bend in the tip, still an awesome knife. And all these are still awesome knives that I would use, you know, minus that Masters one like I just talked about. But in my opinion, you know, it happens. You get what you pay for, and then it depends on what you're using. It depends what your, you know, what your intent is with the knife, and if most, like I said, most of these are fixable. Most of these aren't gonna be something that you have to throw the knife away for. So that's it for this video, guys. Please like and subscribe. Remember, if you saw my last video, I'm gonna be giving away that that awesome ass Black Mule Bowie by Rough Rider once I hit 500 subscribers. So go to that video and leave comment 500 and subbed, or if you're already subbed, just put 500 somewhere within the comment, or you could just comment just 500, and then that enters you into the drawing for the giveaway once I hit 500. I think I'm at like 418 now, so it's close. All right, so again, please like and subscribe. Till next knife, gun, or whatever.